Thank you, everyone, for your presentations. I think I can speak for everyone in this room when I say that you are amazingly accomplished professionals. And so I would like to take this opportunity to ask you a few more questions to find about you and your work. So, Rafaela, in your presentation, I spotted this interesting sentence, "You can't do it all by yourself." Yeah. Which leads to my first question, actually. I wanted to ask you all, who are the people that you need to work with to make your fashion project a huge success? Because you can't do it all by yourself.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, everyone himself or herself has to decide who they want to work with, obviously. But for example, when I first started the magazine, I was just like starting with a friend. We were working on the concept, but it was very theoretical in the beginning. And then the more I reached out to people, you know, friends of friends, the more it became concrete in a way. So I think every time you're starting a project, it's just good to see who is in your network, who's in your surrounding, and how could these people support you. And also, if they believe as much in the project as you do, they'll support you voluntarily. Like, you don't even have to force them or like, you know, like convince them in a way. Then it's more like, I don't know, I would never see a project just as my project. It's more like, you know, contributing something to the community and the city I live in, or, you know, the world. I don't know, it sounds a bit weird, but, you know, it's just good. I feel like it's good to share and see how your friends and your network can help you out.
Thank you. Landiana, I'd like to ask you next. Apart from you, who are the most important people at Feeric Fashion Week?
I could spend 1 hour to answer, because...
But I think you only have a minute.
Okay. Well, the thing with Feeric is that besides the work that we do there, we try to have like, we are like a family, let's say. That's why we came up with the hashtag #FeelFeeric. And there are people, even if they're traveling worldwide, they're taking pictures, they're using this hashtag, because it's a feeling that only at Feeric you can experiment. Actually, the word Feeric means magic. So that's why it's Feel Feeric, it's Feel the Magic. And all the people there are important, because this is not a project made with money, it's a project made with people and their passion. And there are people coming from all over the world, taking 3 days from their jobs just to be there and to support each other. So I think it's about the people from there, and all of them are important and all their work is important.
Thank you. Dita, you have been involved in so many Latvian fashion projects, also supported by the state. So I wanted to ask, what is the responsibility of the state when it comes to promoting local fashion and young designers?
I'm not so about the state duties, but I think that the generally speaking, state must think of ways how to increase the knowledge of general society about the local thing, about what the locals are doing, and why generally speaking, why the products with the added value are better than just plain products, and linking that to the society's well-being. If you will sit on more comfortable chair, you will spend more, but it will stay longer, and the same with the clothes. But we can start with something very primitive to explain that, and the same with the clothes. Why I should buy Latvian or Slovenian design, which is more expensive than something from, I don't know, H&M and Zara, because of that. So telling and explaining, that's the role of the state and all these organizations. Storytelling or telling, why.
Thank you.
And answering to the first shortly about the team, you must think of the analytical thinking person in your team, because you are guys creative ones. The person who will help you to write the business plan, at least the concept in your mind, the thing, and then to think of those who will tell the story instead of you to the target audience, because you must think of the concept and the reach of the target audience. Then the sales personnel, someone who will do sales and marketing, must be in your team. That's it. Minimum 3.
Thank you. Mira, you ran a department store that made it a priority to support local Slovenian designers. So I wanted to ask you if you think Slovenia as a state should do more to support young designers, and how could it do it?
Well, for sure, Slovenia is a small country, and government and the state should support that kind of art, let's say. And I think through that kind of events we are attending today, this is one thing the state could do and continue doing it. But on the other hand, what we were looking at the last 10 years in Slovenia was that almost all textile industry was destroyed. All the old brands from ex-Yugoslavia disappeared, which was really a pity, and I believe this was also the mistake from the state side, and this leads to a problem where all the young people will get the knowledge and where they can learn, and because not anyone can be entrepreneur. They need to grow up with companies which actually in Slovenia don't exist anymore, the textile fashion companies, big companies.
So
and this is the mistake from the state.
So do you think the future of Slovenian fashion is good or bad?
No, I'm optimistic, especially because of you, young people. And I believe also the knowledge of textile industry is still existing in Slovenia and should be continued.
Thank you. Rafaela? You started your own fashion magazine, so I wanted to ask you about the viability of a new fashion project. How do you know when you are starting if your project will be financially successful? Can you know that in advance, or is it more like you do this first and then see what comes out of it?
Well, so first of all, we're not just we are mostly a cultural magazine, but fashion is just part of it. Sure. And fashion is a way to get the money in actually into the magazine, because you can have like different advertisers who book a page, like because they want to appear in the magazine. So that's how we finance ourselves. So we do fashion to kind of evolve and to kind of get the money in. So of course, if it's a free story with a photographer I always wanted to work with, and there is not a support from a brand, because then we are just free to do whatever we want to. But then I'm realistic about it, and I know I'm going to pay on top. I won't get anything out of it except a beautiful story, which is sometimes good enough, or exactly what we want. But then it's just about a balanced thing. I think it's important to like do what you feel like without always thinking about money as well. Just like go ahead and do it. But then on the other side, you need to have your other clients and jobs getting in, or like brands paying for it, because otherwise I think it's like a circle. The one without the other doesn't work. So when you started, you didn't worry about money so much. You just went ahead for it. No, I'm never worried that much about it. I don't care so much about money. So okay. I'm the wrong person to ask. But I'm realistic about it. I'm also like, I can be confronted with no money. It's fine. You know, I know how to get out of it again. But I'm not so afraid of losing money, because I feel like it's always getting in somehow if you work hard and like you're out there. Landiana? This is also a question about funding. You showed us that you did a lot in Sibiu with relatively little money, and you also mentioned that the city hall of this is supporting you. Do you have any other sponsors, or how do you get the rest of the money?
We used to have, for example, for the last edition, we didn't have a sponsor in money, just in logistics, like helping us, I don't know, from the transportation, or there were some sponsors offering the lunches or the dinners for the guests in order for them to connect even more. Actually, even if it's going to be the 3rd edition, we are still not a business. We just, because you need to gain credibility in order to then start and make money. So we were working from the beginning. We knew that it's going to take few years in order to get here. And we started small, as I said, and then in the 5th edition we started to open our doors for the international parts, and only after the 7th edition we started to gain the popularity. And mentioning projects without money and people passionate about. Even now, we are on a tour in Europe, me and my team. It's called Fashion Around Europe, literally. And we are going by car in 37 countries and interviewing designers and craftsmanships and schools just to know how fashion really is in those parts. And we will make it we will make a book and a documentary with all this information, and we are doing it on our budget, just because we want to really show to the people what it means, because everybody's attention is focused on the big cities in terms of fashion. But there are so many interesting things happening right here on the coast of Europe. And I think there is not a question of money when it comes to passion. I think that primes, and it should be that way. Of course, you need to support somehow your businesses, but in the first case, you need to gain the credibility of who you're collaborating with, if you want to do it on long term. If not, it's okay. You can do it on short term. You have some money, you invest, they will end, like the careers of the designers I heard mentioned before, because if they think short term, it's going to happen that way.
Thank you. Dita, how important when you are starting a new venture, be it a brand or an event or a store like the one that you opened, how important is market research before you start all of that?
When I realized myself in the fashion industry after the banking where I spent 10 years, I didn't think so much of the business plans which I used to do in the banking. But then when you start naturally doing something as a flow, because I opened the store because, as I said, design months ended and there was the leftovers of collections, so I understood with my analytical mindset that there must be solution. I searched for solution for the problem. And that's the research, actually. I would say that's the research, because I found how I can solve the problem. But the research is very important. Knowing the competitors, it's very important. If you think you are genius, maybe you are, but then just Google and check out how much the same genius persons are in your segment. So that's the research, and then to check out the places, stores, how they look like. Do I want to be between these other brands? That we call research too. To come to store. That we had rarely, when designers, those who were selling, were coming to store and checking out what kind of reactions the customers have. That's the research, or observations. You must do it. We must do it. We do it every time. When we organize the fashion show and there is so much publicity, we always think and speak. Why it didn't work? What we should do next time to be better? That's research too. So always do something.
Thank you. Mira, when Slovenian designers were selling in Nama, I am going to guess that some of them were more successful and some of them were a bit less successful. So I wanted to ask you, what did the more successful designers have in common?
Well, there were differences, of course. I think the most the challenge they have was to be present in the department store and to be on the selling spot, to communicate with the customer. As was mentioned, this was very important, to do the homework, what Nama department store actually is, who are the customers, and to adapt their collection to them. This was very important. And of course, what was for us important to have on time and quality delivery of the good provides. This was differences from designer to designer.
Because we are running out of time a little bit, I'll just have one more question for all of you, actually. So which do you think is the best marketing tool for fashion nowadays? You can start.
Shall I start with a microphone? I think PR, the self-PR, to walk and talk and live your story you believe in. If you are building a fashion brand, you should know that. And to communicate that with your network, with a larger audience, and that's the best marketing tool from my side.
Yeah, agree. Like online presence for sure.
Which precisely?
Like depends on the country, but here now Instagram, of course, and your e-shop, your website, like whatever you can, like digitally. It's good to be present everywhere because that's where people check who don't know you, and also people just start clicking and maybe they end up on your profile. So I mean, it's not the only thing. It's like you have to live by your truth, and you have to go around and live your story and talk to people, not be too shy about it. So yeah.
Okay.
Self-promotion.
Yeah, I must agree. It's like nowadays it's very easy to get to the public and to the consumer, and I think the most common tool to do so is social media. And of course, it depends from designer to designer which platform they choose and how it's best for them to gain the attention of their consumers. But yeah, I think it's the only way to do it now. Of course, going to showrooms and everything helps, but it's the easiest one, let's say.
I think first of all the content, because to reach the audience it's easily, but the message is the king, I would say, and there is typically there is no message or weak message. So first of all, homework is to understand to what I stand for, me as designer, me as a company, or the same one. And then if you will know why I do that, just be honest. And honestly always tell the story and showcase how you deliver that your promise or what you really stand for. Then it will work. And now there is no matter if it's conference or Instagram or Snapchat, whatever. Know what you stand for and then tell the story.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes for questions from the public. So if you want to ask something, now is your chance. Če želite, lahko vprašate tudi v slovenščini, pa bomo prevedli. Yeah, everyone is very shy today. You have a question?
Yeah, it's actually a question for you. So I was wondering how was, or I didn't hear, the chamber organized, how is finance and led? So is it like a, I don't know, governmental incentive, private incentive, whatever? Okay.
For me.
Oh, for Dita. Yeah, sure.
Yes, Latvian Fashion Chamber is not supported by state. We are not. We don't have any money, physical money at all. Yeah, that's always because we are United Designers. Me as the head, that's my social work. For 10 years on a row, and if we organize the projects, then we apply for the funding. We have in Latvian Cultural Fund, which supports the cultural initiatives, but there's always competition. So we write the projects and we try to get the funds. But we have when it comes to the small-scale exhibitions, for example, for ambassadors, then we just calculate minimum money. It's usually like 30-50 euros, which we gather from the designers, and then on social basis we do these activities. Of course, we lack money, but we understand that we will not get it because we are in the context, in the framework of culture. Fashion sounds like an industry, like a business, and that's why we always fight for it very, very, strong.
So thank you. That's it for now. I'm going to take a little break, probably. No?
I have one question. What Slovenian I think that everybody wants to ask that. What Slovenian designers should do to end up on Feeric Fashion Week or Riga Fashion Week or in Badland magazine?
Well, just reach out and we talk. You know, it depends, of course, if the universe is meshed. I'm not making any promise, but it's like generally you should always reach out to the people you want to work with, and don't be shy, because even if I say no or whoever, it's fine, maybe in 2 years or next year or maybe another magazine, so don't take it personal. So yeah, be open. I'm open.
In terms of, you want to go? Yeah, at Feeric Fashion Week, because as I mentioned, we are doing everything just with people's passion. We do need some money in order to have these shows. But as I mentioned, the taxes for designers are really, really low. So in this moment, we have the early bird packages, which are like the highest, I think it's 3,000 with everything included. But of course, there's the possibility to talk with the organization and make like a collective group that we could put together some of the most representative talents and come together with a unique show at Feeric. And also there are lots of chances because we are really open and interested to support as much as we can. And as I mentioned before about the other project, Fashion Around Europe, my team now is in Hague, I guess. They took me yesterday to Brussels so I could fly to Venice and then come here. So then I will go back to Brussels and then we go to Amsterdam, and anyways, we will come back here in Ljubljana. So we would like to interview some of you, or we would like to shoot some frames for the documentary that we're going to post, and also on social media. And we would like to help as much as we can and to show to the people the stories that are here, as we did in all the countries that we were before. Like we started with Budapest, where we found out such interesting stories. Like I never knew that there are designers, they are actually Romani, like gypsies, and they are selling not to their market, but for a luxury market. For me, that's fascinating. And there are so many interesting stories in Bratislava and everywhere. So we would like also to know how the fashion really is here in this part. And I think I answered the question.
I think that first of all, what mistake we had, and I think you have the same. I heard from someone in the panel. So it's so hard to get the Western's attention. So that's always the opposite question: do we really need to have the Western market attention? Because globe is so big. And don't focus to Western market because it's downtown in the downtown now. And if it's about Latvia, of course you can apply to Riga Fashion Week, but then think opposite again. If you should do something as we did in Georgia or in Moscow. We just made the Latvian fashion show with the best 5-7 fashion designers, and we made it within the official events when president visited the country. So that's kind of the economic framework to have state officials who are saying, we brought to that country Slovenian fashion design, we want to collaborate. That will make bigger noise that just participants in the Riga Fashion Week, or we used to do Latvian Fashion Week fashion manifestation, but was only for Latvians. So think of the right tool in the right market. That's again about research.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay, then we're done. Thank you for your attention.